Hello boys and girls, this is Mr. So. Welcome back for another lesson of biology. Today we are going through lesson 17 about amnion and placenta, 羊膜同埋胎盤. Before you start watching the video, remember to like and subscribe my channel and also share the video to your classmates and remind them to do their revision at home. Let's start. After successful implantation, 着床啦. The embryo, it will grow bigger and eventually become a baby. And the baby is actually surrounded by a layer of membrane. We call this amnion, 羊膜, which is developed from the embryonic cell. And these amnion 羊膜, it will also secrete 羊水. In English, we call it the amniotic fluid. And this amniotic fluid is very important for the survival of the embryo and baby inside the mother uterus. For the function of the amniotic fluid, number one, it can act as a cushion. 一個防震避震啦. It can protect the embryo from physical injury, 物理嘅衝擊啦, such as shocking. Next, this amniotic fluid, it also provides a stable environment for the embryo development to provide them with stable temperature, stable pH, etc. And since the embryo or the baby is bathed with liquids, these prevent the embryo from desiccation as well. Desiccation, that means dry up, 乾咗啦. Last but not least, the amniotic fluid, it can also act as a lubricant. 一個潤滑啦. It allows the embryo to move easily. And also, when the baby is about to get out of the mother uterus, when the mother is going to labor, 生產啦準備, it also lubricates 潤滑 the vagina during the childbirth. Let's do a question to check your understanding. The diagram below shows a human fetus, 一個嬰兒啦, in the uterus. And then now we have PQRS. Can you please, before you start doing the question, label PQRS? S, it should be the, you just learn it, it should be the amnion, 羊膜. And for U, it is the fluid secreted by the amnion, it should be the amniotic fluid, 羊水. What about P and Q? I think you can use your common sense to do the naming of P and Q. P, it should be the placenta, 胎盤. What about for Q? Do you know what it is? Q is actually the umbilical cord. Chinese 臍帶. And then let's go to question B. Can you give two functions of fluid U? That means the amniotic fluid. You can just copy from my previous slide. Write just any two. For example, you can write me number one. It protects the fetus from, you can say, physical injuries. Ah, 保護佢，等佢冇呢個物理嘅衝擊啦. Next, you can tell me number two. It provides stable environment for the fetus development. You can have other examples as well. For example, it prevents the fetus from desiccation, drying up from the last line. It allows the fetus to move easily, lubricates the movement, etc. You can give me any two functions of the fluid U, amniotic fluid. Sometimes the questions in the exam, they will ask you, can you name me the function of the uterus before childbirth? You can tell me, for example, it helps the implantation of the embryo, or it allows the formation of placenta for gas exchange and nutrient exchange or excretion. You can also tell me that your uterus helps to do as a shock absorber to protect the baby from physical injuries. After 3 weeks time, the embryo it will grow bigger, and then the embryo it will grow out some embryonic villi. And together with the mother's uterus tissue on the other side here, it helps to form the placenta. So one thing very important to bear in mind is placenta, it is formed by both the tissue from the embryo, the baby, and also the tissues from the mommy uterus. And in the middle, to connect the placenta and the baby, you have a umbilical cord, 脐带, umbilical cord. This is how, in reality, the placenta and the umbilical cord looks like. If you cut open the umbilical cord, you will be able to see two types of blood vessels, arteries and vein. And before you start, I think you should be able to identify the arteries and vein as well. This one, very thick wall, it should be the artery, right? While this one, thin wall with big lumen, it should be the vein. In the umbilical cord, you have two umbilical arteries. And for artery, it means away from heart. Which heart? This time should be the baby's heart. If you are going to carry things away from the baby's heart, it should be some waste. Therefore, it carries the deoxygenated blood from the embryo to the placenta. While for the umbilical vein down there, it is meaning in, that means into the heart of the baby. Therefore, it should carry some nutrients and important materials, right? It should carry the oxygenated blood from the placenta to the embryo. In this slide here, I draw you a very cute picture, and I want you to identify the umbilical artery and the umbilical vein. Let's start with the first one. The blood vessels on the top, it carries the blood into the baby's heart, into the fetus heart. So this one, it should be the umbilical vein into the heart. And then for the blood vessels down there, it carries the blood away from the fetus heart. So therefore, this one, it should be the umbilical artery. And then the next part is, which blood vessels carries more oxygen? That means oxygenated blood. Which blood vessels carry less oxygenated blood? If the blood is going into the baby's heart, it should carry a lot of oxygen. So therefore, the blood vessels, umbilical vein, it should carries a lot of oxygenated blood. So I use the red color to circle the umbilical vein. It carries oxygenated blood. While for the umbilical artery, it carries the blood away from the baby's heart, back to the placenta. It should carry the waste. So therefore, for the umbilical artery, I draw it with blue color, and I circle with blue. That means it carries the deoxygenated blood. It also carries the waste as well. I hope you understand with this picture and drawing. This is the inner structure of a placenta. In red, this is the umbilical vein carrying the oxygenated blood. Those in blue is the umbilical artery carrying the deoxygenated blood. Those I draw in purple is the embryonic villi, which has the embryonic capillary inside, and they are separated from the maternal blood space. For the maternal blood and also the embryonic blood, they never mixed. Why? Because it helps to, number one, prevent the high blood pressure 高血壓 from maternal blood damaging the embryo's blood vessels. The high blood pressure from the mother's blood will burst and break the embryo's blood vessels if they go directly from the mother's blood to the baby's blood. So you don't want the baby's blood vessels being damaged and broken. Secondly, it helps to avoid the problem brought by 血型不合. That means you don't want the two different blood groups to mix with each other. We call this blood group incompatibility. Important nutrients such as glucose, amino acid, etc., they will diffuse from the maternal blood together with oxygen to the embryo for growth and development. While for the waste, such as carbon dioxide and urea 硫素 from the embryo, they will diffuse into the maternal blood and remove them from the baby's body. Right now, let's do a question to check your understanding. On the diagram below, it shows the blood vessels found in human placenta. So what is X and Y? First of all, identify arteries and veins. For X, it should be a vein. For Y, it should be an artery based on the wall thickness. For the vein, thin wall. Artery, thick wall. And then because they are found in the placenta, so X, it should be the umbilical vein. While for Y, it should be the umbilical artery. And then question 2, C2. Complete the table below to compare the composition of blood in blood vessels X and Y. Oxygen concentration in X. Vein going into the baby. Does the blood going into the baby has more oxygen or less? It should be more. While for the blood going away from the baby, it should have less oxygen. And then on the other hand, urea concentration, urea, Chinese 硫素, that means some waste. The 唔要嘅廢物啦, okay, waste. Do you find more waste going away from the baby or into the baby? Should be away, right? So therefore, in the artery Y, it should have more urea, the waste. And then for X going into the baby, less waste. Please go to your textbook page 27 to finish your MCQ question 2. The placenta, they are very important for exchange of materials, and it has many good adaptation to help for the exchange of material. Adaptation 適應 many good structure that helps exchange, make it faster. For example, there are many embryonic villi. Let's take a look. These are the embryonic villi. Their finger-like structure. And then these embryonic villi helps to increase the surface area for exchange or diffusion. Besides increasing the surface area for exchange or diffusion, the wall of the capillary or the embryonic villi, they are very thin. You just tell me they are 1 cell thick. So it gives a short diffusion distance. Number 3, inside the embryonic villi, you will be able to find a lot of blood vessels. So these blood vessels helps to carry materials away rapidly To maintain a steep concentration gradient for diffusion. Let's do a question on your classwork. State and explain one adaptation of placenta for exchange. You can tell me from the previous slide, it has embryonic villi to increase the surface area for exchange or diffusion of materials. Or you can tell me about the wall of embryonic villi is 1 cell thick. So therefore, reduce the diffusion distance, etc. For the other function of placenta, it can also secrete female sex hormone to maintain the thickness of uterine lining 子宮內膜 during pregnancy. To make sure the lining is strong and the placenta is stuck on the uterine lining very safely. Also, your placenta can also act as a barrier to avoid the harmful substances such as bacteria going into the baby's body. However, some very, very small substances such as virus, nicotine 尼古丁啊，一氧化碳 carbon monoxide from the cigarette, alcohol, drugs 一啲毒品啊 they are small enough to get through the placenta. So if they really get through the placenta, it might damage the baby. Here it shows you a picture of a baby born with severe birth defects due to mother's drug usage. 濫藥嘅母親導致個 BB 咧生出嚟畸胎變形啦。俾則新聞大家睇啦，有關於咧胚胎 embryo 容易受 heavy metal 重金屬嘅影響，例如咩重金屬咧？例如鉛啦，最近可能嘅鉛水啦、水銀啦、探面針入邊嘅，或者我哋arsenic砷啦，呢啲重金屬咧喺低濃度嘅情況之下咧，都可以對身體造成嚴重嘅影響嘅，尤其對腦部發展啦，同埋生殖器官胚胎發展。點解會講起佢呢？因為胎盤原來係唔能夠將重金屬隔絕嘅，咁所以咧懷孕嘅婦女咧要小心身體唔好吸入任何 heavy metal 重金屬啦。例如係咩咧？可能係一啲藝術工作者啦，你可能係啲油彩嗰方面咧都有啲重金屬嘅，咁所以要避免啦。Let's take a look at question D. Nicotine in cigarette 香煙入邊嘅尼古丁 can lead to the constriction of blood vessels. Constriction, that means 收窄。Describe how a fetus of a smoking mother might be harmed by cigarette smoke. First of all, if the blood vessels of the fetus in the placenta is constricted 收窄, what happens to the blood flow? It should be reduced. Therefore, the amount of blood flow so as the oxygen and nutrient supplied to fetus, what happens? Will be reduced 減少咗啦。And therefore, what happens to the baby? The baby will become, it has less oxygen, less nutrient. They will become smaller and lighter in weight. That's it for the lesson of amnion and placenta 羊膜同胎盤. Please go to your textbook page 27 and do the MCQ number 3. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.